What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Miaggy Nation podcast. I'm Alex Miller, joined always by the one and only Robert Cessna. Cease, I don't know about you. I think this weekend was maybe the best weekend of the year for A&M sports when you look at it holistically. Across the board, big wins, crazy wins, and wins with significance. What was the thing that stood out to you the most?
Yeah, a plethora of success, which a lot of times is, we all know.
Which, like 3 weeks ago, we were talking about the opposite.
Yeah, but I got to give a shout out to Mark Weaver and his girls. Only the fact because it's so hard to repeat as anything as champion, and they're national champs. They haven't lost since I think Jimmy Carter at home in the White House. I mean, they're just so amazing. And they went in a game back of weekend of Georgia, and lo and behold, they win 2 more matches at home. They're SEC champs. Every sport has its idiosyncrasies and things. When you get down to the last man or woman standing, and I know a lot of times you have a few hundred it does, but when you have all eyes on those 2 people, and you were there, so what a moment for A&M.
Yeah, I mean, it was just an incredible match. 4 hours. I mean, just it's number 1 versus number 2, and they've had so many battles. A&M's won some, Georgia's won some. It's like splitting hairs, right? Mm-hmm. And no wonder that the SEC title comes down to a tiebreaker match in the 3rd set on the last court, tied 3-3. And look, Luciana Perez, I'll be honest, there was a moment there I was wondering if she was going to be able to get it back together and find a way to win that match, because she was up 5-2. She had 40 love, and it just lost all momentum. And credit to the Georgia girl for battling. I mean, she forced that tiebreaker match at 6-6. She had the lead, and then Luciana just dug deep and made it happen, won it. And I mean, just what an incredible match, right? You have on the number 1 court, Mary Stoyana, who's facing Georgia's number 1, who's number 1 in the nation. It's number 1 singles versus number 2 singles in the country.
In the country, yeah.
And it was just an incredible match that both sets were won by Stoyana, but both went to tiebreakers. She won both in tiebreakers. So it shows you how close the margins were there. And the way that A&M was able to rally from down 3-1 to extend it was just purely impressive. Not only did they win their 4th straight SEC regular season title, or at least a share of it.
Share of it, yeah.
They had a 67-match home win streak on the line that for a second there I was like, ooh, this might be the one. And then lo and behold, A&M's able to pull it out. And the crowd was just awesome. I mean, several thousand people there at a tennis match. And, I mean, if you were going to go to a tennis match, that was a great one to go to. And the people got a good show.
Yeah, this was very interesting because I think they've shared the title a couple times these last 4 or 5 years. But that was all right. That was winner take all.
That was
which Georgia really feels bad today because they beat Texas on Friday. Then they were playing with house money, but they screwed up, lost. They did the Texas 2-step the wrong way, but I think they'll play again this year somewhere.
They might play at the end of this week down in Auburn.
Yeah, they might play in the SEC conference tournament, even though with Auburn and Texas, that's not a gimme because both of them are playing really well right now. And then, of course, they might play again for the national championship next year.
Which, by the way, the national championships this year are up in Waco.
Mm-hmm.
So
saw that. Yeah.
If any tennis fans, if A&M makes a run, want to get a look at it, I'm sure we'll be talking about that in the weeks to come. But
Waco,
up in Waco. So we'll see how A&M women's tennis can do these next few weeks.
And then I have to laugh and I don't know about you if you're in town. I know you're out a little bit. But I always have to laugh about how this town is reflected of Texas A&M athletics. And what I'm referring to is I go to First Baptist Church, Bryan, pretty big church. And, of course, the buzz on Sunday was how many people left before A&M won the baseball game. And not only did my Sunday school teacher talk about it, but they even made reference to it in May. I mean, it's amazing when this town is hinge a lot on A&M sports.
Well, so obviously baseball is my beat, and I was not at the game Saturday.
Well, it used to be.
It used to be. It's now Jake Weiss's beat.
Yeah.
He's been elevated.
It's all about W, wins and Weiss.
He's been called up from the minors. He was on the 40-man roster.
Junior high, called up from junior high.
There you go. Anyway, I was in the car listening to the game. John Clendenin actually did color on Saturday with
really?
Andrew Monaco. He did a good job. Shout out to John. But A&M's down 12-2, and
12-2, yeah.
and it's
That's
to the point.
That's run roll time.
It's to the point where John's making fun of my old rickety car that I used to drive. Like, you know, they're just trying to fill time a little bit with just a bad baseball game. And I'm thinking, you know, man, A&M just beat the brakes off of South Carolina the night before. You know, South Carolina is not a really good baseball team.
No, they're not.
At all.
At all.
And A&M's riding this high. You know, how can they? The big thing this whole weekend was, could they stay consistent? Could they build off a big win at Tennessee? And through 2 days, you thought that was the case. Then they scored a run. Then they scored a couple more runs. And I was thinking, okay, no way. Like, no way they're going to do this. So I was going to a wedding. And so I get to the wedding, and I check the score right before the ceremony. And Hayden Schott hits a grand slam to make it 12-11. I'm, holy shnikes, that's crazy. And ceremony starts. I'm a good guy. I don't look at my phone. But as soon as the ceremony ends, I'm like, what happened with that baseball game? So I pull out my phone, and Caden Kent had just hit the grand slam to win it. I don't know what impressed me the most about that game is that A&M hit 2 grand slams in the 9th inning, or that the fact that they came back from down 10 in the 6th inning to win. What impressed you most about this weekend with A&M baseball, Cease?
Well, the bottom line is they won, but I always had a laugh. You don't hit 2 grand slams in the 9th inning because who's down by that many runs to a bad team? I mean, A&M didn't play for 6 innings, but they turned it on for 3 innings, and it was going to be an ugly loss to an ugly team. But once again, they got that plexiderm or whatever, and they look good, what have you. And so the bottom line is they survived, and now, like as the same case last week, can you build on it? Because you didn't really do anything. You gained your confidence, hopefully, and you beat a bad team, but now can you turn that into beating a good team?
And they're going to play a really good team this weekend in Arkansas.
A team that's mad after losing 2 one-run games to Georgia.
Yeah, Arkansas was number 1 last week. They've fallen just a little bit in the polls. Texas is number 1 right now. A&M gets them the next week.
Yeah, how about that? You get a former number 1 with a number 1 on deck, but that's the SEC just about in any sport, particularly the diamond sports. You go on the road number 1, you might come back number 3 with a couple losses.
Yeah, that's just kind of life in the Southeastern Conference. Odds are you're going to face at least 1 number 1, and more often than not, you face at least 2 number 1. I think back to the football season when A&M played, 4?
Yeah.
4 teams that at one point were number 1 when they faced them?
What I have to laugh is we're hearing about these top 5 matchups and top 10 matchups. It's getting a little bit numbing because it's just like every week or every other week because the league is so good in the diamonds. So if you're up there, and of course A&M's not up there right now. Everybody thought they would be. But in softball, it's like, every other week's a top 5 matchup or definitely a top 10 matchup because this is by far the league when it comes to diamonds.
Hey, 2 local area boys that made a big impact this weekend were Blake Binderup at the plate and Brad Rudis on the mound. Blake Binderup changed up his batting stance a little bit, had a great weekend. I haven't looked to see if they've announced SEC Player of the Week, but he's definitely got to be in the running with the week that he had. And that's huge given, Blake was a little up and down first month or so of the season.
A lot up and down.
And got taken out of the lineup. And
that'll happen.
It'll happen. And Gavin Cash came in playing okay. Not great, but better. Cash gets hurt. Binderup's back in the lineup. And he's really made the most of this opportunity now that he's back in the lineup. So, A&M doesn't win these games without him. And then they don't win that game Saturday without Brad Rudis coming in, shutting things down in the 6th inning. A&M had already given up 4 runs. I think South Carolina had runners on 2nd and 3rd with 1 out, and he shuts the door and posted 3 scoreless innings, and that was a huge difference maker. A&M being able to stop the bleeding out in the field.
And they had like bases loaded in the ninth, and they didn't score. You think if South Carolina scores 1 or 2 more runs, just the mental approach of it, once again is the beauty of a diamond sport. It can hinge on fielding, it can hinge on offense. Just one play can suddenly turn things around.
And that was thanks to freshman Caden McCoy, who came in. He's an arm that A&M's been leaning on here these last couple of weeks that they think has a bright future. So, big weekend on tap against Arkansas. But first, can't overlook Tarleton State on Tuesday, Cease.
Never can overlook Tarleton State, the home of Billy Gillespie at one point,
Hey, over at Davis Diamond, it was a rockin' weekend for the Aggies. Cease, they sweep LSU. They are in first place outright by half a game.
Still in first place, yeah.
To Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC. They got a chance to be number 1 in this week in multiple polls. Softball America's already got them at number 1 in their poll this week. Cease, what stood out to you the most about what A&M was able to do on the diamond over there?
Well, you just find a way to win. I mean, they only had 4 hits the last 2 games, yet they really have dominating victories by the walks, errors, what have you. LSU has earned that right to be a name program in the last couple of decades. You got to go back for A&M's heydays, in the 80s, and they had that 2 good, 2 or 3 year good run with Megan Gibson and Amanda Scarborough. But right now, that cemented them to me as far as a top 8 seed. They're going to go to, have a great path to the College World Series, taking care of LSU, because there's no doubt A&M was the better team. When you sweep somebody in 3 games, you give them 3 chances, and they swing and miss all 3 times. LSU left a humble team, and they got to go to Texas next weekend. But A&M, teams reflect their coach, and Tricia Ford does everything with a little bit of chip on her shoulder. She likes to beat people. She likes to brag about it. She has a good time, and her team's having a really good time right now. And it's only going to get better when you look at what's happening. And they're going to go to Missouri this weekend. Missouri's struggling, and A&M's had trouble in the past there, but this is Tricia's first time there. It's a new sheriff in town, so I think they'll go up there and take care of business. Come back next weekend, huge series, because Arkansas is playing really well right now. That describes just about anybody in the SEC. And then I think they got a chance to be number 1 for a while, but then they're going to go to Tennessee that last week, and I think Tennessee does have the best pitcher in the league. No offense to Emily Kennedy. She can maybe show that she is, but Pickens beat Texas back-to-back shutout games. Texas is the number 1 hitting team in the league, and she just shut them down, and that's waiting at the end. That'll be a great super regional preview, or maybe even a College World Series preview. Who knows?
Yeah, you shut down that Texas softball offense with is it Reese Atwood? Is that
Atwood, Maloney? I mean, they came in.
They got some girls on that team.
I want to say 361 as a team coming in, and they got 2 runs off her in 20 innings. It's 15 innings with 20 strikeouts and like 2 walks. That's what you call domination. But Emily Kennedy, I don't want to slight her. She's the bell cow. She's the one that, the straw that stirs the drink, so to speak. A lot of players stepped up this weekend at different times, whether it was Ellie Enright had a big hit, or Kramer, Ashtay, or however, the Brenham girl, I'll say, because I get her name right.
Ashtay, you were right. Good job, Cease.
But it all starts and ends with Emily Kennedy in the circle. So A&M's going to be home for 2 weekends in softball NCAA action, but you might want to make plans to possibly get a room reservation up there in Oklahoma City early, maybe.
Okay, more impressive. Anderson Garcia's catch on the run on the home run ball, or Mike Elko sitting behind home plate for the entire game?
Okay, the most impressive is 2 years ago, Garcia, I need to put this in my column. He came to a softball game, and there was a pop up over behind the dugout, an easy play, and he missed it. And he took some ribbon. The next time he showed up, he had a glove. That's when you know a guy makes. That's smart. I give Garcia all the credit in the world. And I was sitting beside Travis Brown, former Eagle employee. I don't know, he works somewhere in town. But anyway, we were sitting there, and you look out, and that guy made this running catch. And I go, holy cow, that was awesome. And I got to give credit. I was listening to Matt Simon. Matt Simon, good friend of ours, does he's the voice of A&M softball. He goes, Anderson Garcia makes that catch. And I go, holy cow, that was Garcia. And I go, had his glove. Can't wait to see. And I've ribbed him a couple times going down to interviews after. I haven't done it this year because I gave him grief when I said, "Hey, you brought your glove," and he didn't get it. First time he brought it, of course, he didn't get any action. But here's a 6'11" guy or 6'9" guy with a glove stands out.
Supportive boyfriend Anderson Garcia,
without a doubt. But hey, Elko staying back there for the whole game too. That was. He brought his mother. Way to take care of the mom.
That's one thing about Mike Elko. He often will give shout-outs to other programs that are doing really good things, and he's not afraid to make an appearance at other sporting events and support other A&M teams. So you got to tip your cap to Elko for.
Didn't have a glove though.
Didn't have a glove. Well, didn't sound like he needed one. Thankfully for Mike.
There you go.
Hey, speaking of A&M football. They got
That's
a spring.
right.
They got a spring game this weekend, and it's actually a spring game. It's not just drills or a combine. As far as we know, at least.
And there's nothing else going on in town. Usually there's like 65,000 things. Like you got to run from softball to baseball to track, work in the maroon and white game. Nope, maroon and white game. You're it, baby.
It is the only show in town.
Only show in town.
Cease, is there anything you're looking for in this maroon and white game?
Yeah, I hope it ends on time.
I'm curious. There's a lot of new faces on this team, and definitely curious what the defensive line looks like. Who maybe stands out. Don't put a ton of stock in spring game performances. Never. It's always a good rule of thumb. But just learning personnel and who's maybe working with who and where these guys are kind of stacking up in terms of the depth chart is kind of interesting because, lo and behold, it is your only real glimpse into how things are starting to shape up before August. We'll obviously dive deeper into that once we get to fall camp, but, what does Marcel Reed look like? What do these new receivers look like, right? Mm-hmm. They've got a couple guys that they're really high on so far. Marcel says he wants to complete 70% of his passes, so, what kind of steps forward can they make on this offense?
I usually don't like to make predictions at spring football games, but I'm making a prediction. No one on Friday will come out and ask for a new NIL deal and not show up for the spring game. Is that wild or what?
That is crazy.
I mean, that is, when I saw that flash across ESPN, I go, this is what we've come to. They don't even do that in the pros. I mean, they might hold out in spring training or, preseason football. But, college, you think rah-rah are your teammates. We're in this together. When you watch the A&M women's tennis team win that championship, when I watch the A&M softball team come together and stick it, in LSU's, you have a sport where your leader doesn't show up because he needs more money. Boy, that's what kind of message are we sending to kids these days? I don't know.
That's a fair point. But
we start with, it was a great weekend last weekend. You got to enjoy those weekends because they don't come every day. Big weekend this weekend. You want to keep continuing. A&M's in Arkansas, not here. A&M softball's in Missouri, but a lot to pay for.
Well, my phone's not ringing, but Bucky McMillan's phone has been ringing. Who's calling? I don't know if y'all have seen those social media videos, but they're just funny. they've put together some hype videos to announce that they've got a new commitment. And look, first impressions mean a lot. Bucky McMillan has just knocked it out of the park in terms of first impressions. We'll see how things shake out on the court over the next few years, but the guy has really done a great job this first week or two, just interacting with people, getting people excited about men's basketball, and he was front and center a couple times this weekend out at baseball and softball.
Here's the deal: there's a new buzz in town.
There is.
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. Well, hey, the buzz in the office is there's a lot of work to do. So,
yeah, the fun's over. We're done making jokes and a little bit of one-liners. Now our editor Rick, what's the guy's name? Wigman's out here. Is those guys ever going to end? We'll get on it, Rick.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning into this week's episode of the My Nation podcast. Let's hope my allergies are better next week so I don't sound so nasally. But the good thing is you don't have to listen to me when you read my stories at theeagle.com. So until next time, I'm Alex Miller. That's Robert Cessna. We'll see you next week on the My Nation podcast.